So welcome to the final part of the hunting of the Snark. As promised, the last two bits will be rolled into one as they're both quite short. The first is the banker's fate and the second is the vanishing. Both begin with the same repeated stanza, so you'll know exactly where one stops and the other one starts. I won't bother with the title. As our intrepid friends finally meet the end of their quest, they've learned a lot about each other. They've learned a lot about the dreaded boojum that they may encounter. They've also learned that maps are an awful lot more beneficial if they actually have places drawn on them. If you have missed any of the previous parts, then you can always just click on my name at the bottom corner there, go to my other page and you'll find all of them there, as well as some of the other, well, pretty much all of the other readings that I've done over the last month or so. And you can always play everything in order and watch my hair grow in the world's dullest stop-motion movie. There you go. When you're really, really bored. So, here we go. The banker's fate. They sought it with thimbles, they sought it with care, they pursued it with forks and hope. They threatened its life with a railway snare, they charmed it with smiles and soap. And the banker, inspired with a courage so new it was a matter of general remark, rushed madly ahead and was lost at her view in his zeal to discover the Snark. But while he was seeking with thimbles and care, a bandersnatch swiftly drew nigh and grabbed at the banker, who shrieked in despair, for he knew it was useless to fly. He offered large discount, he offered a cheque drawn to bearer for £7.10, but the bandersnatch merely extended its neck and grabbed at the banker again. Without rest or pause, while these furious jaws went savagely snapping around, he skipped and he hopped and he floundered and flopped, till fainting he fell to the ground. The bandersnatch fled as the others appeared, led on by that fear-stricken yell, and the bellman remarked, "It is just as I feared," and solemnly tolled on his bell. He was black in the face, and they scarcely could trace the least likeness to what he had been, while so great was his fright that his waistcoat turned white, a wonderful thing to be seen. To the horror of all who were present that day, he uprose in full evening dress, and with senseless grimaces endeavoured to say what his tongue could no longer express. Down he sank in a chair, ran his hands through his hair, and chanted in minimus tones, words whose utter insanity proved his insanity, while he rattled a couple of bones. "Leave him here to his fate, it is getting so late," the bellman exclaimed in a fright. "We have lost half the day, and further delay, and we shan't catch a Snark before night." They sought it with thimbles, they sought it with care, they pursued it with forks and hope. They threatened its life with a railway snare, they charmed it with smiles and soap. They shuddered to think that the chase might fail, and the beaver, excited at last, went bounding along on the tip of his tail, for the daylight was nearly past. "There is Thingamabob shouting," the bellman said. "He is shouting like mad, only hark! He is waving his hands, he is wagging his head, he has certainly found a Snark." They gazed in delight, while the butcher exclaimed, "He was always a desperate wag." They beheld him, their baker, their hero unnamed, on top of a neighbouring crag. Erect and sublime for one moment of time, in the next the wild figure they saw, as if stung by a spasm, plunge into the chasm, while they waited and listened in awe. "It's a Snark," was the sound that first came to their ears, and seemed almost too good to be true. Then followed a torrent of laughter and cheers. Then the ominous words, "It's a boo." Then silence. Some fancied they heard in the air a weary and wandering sigh that sounded like "Chum," but the others declare it was only a breeze that went by. They hunted till darkness came on, but they found not a button or feather or mark, by which they could tell that they stood on the ground where the baker had met with the Snark. In the midst of the word he was trying to say, in the midst of his laughter and glee, he had softly and suddenly vanished away, for the Snark was a boojum, you see. And there ends their tale. Until tomorrow, and something new, goodbye.